This is Valley News Live at noon.
A protest over the new Enbridge pipeline being built in Minnesota is happening right now in Fargo. Line 3 would stretch 337 miles across Minnesota, and opponents say they don't want it contaminating their land or the environment. Now, the pipeline has drawn national attention. So let's take a live look at Island Park in downtown Fargo, where the protest is underway. Now, the Red River People Over Profits Initiative is hosting the rally. It just started at 11:30. Now, the group is demanding action against Wells Fargo to cut ties and stop funding for Line 3. Check back at valleynewslive.com for updates on this story throughout the day. And another protest is happening this afternoon at North Dakota State University. Stop Asian Hate and Keep Pressure is the name of the protest that local college groups are marching for. This comes after recent shootings at several spas in Atlanta, which some claim targeted the Asian community. Now, authorities have not yet labeled it as a hate crime. Now, the protest starts at 2 this afternoon at NDSU's Memorial Union. The route will be announced once people start to arrive. The groups say they'll continue to fight for equality at NDSU by putting pressure on their own administration.
I think it's important, obviously, to get local support because a lot of these things, and there are obviously a lot of people of color, especially in the Asian community in Fargo and Moorhead area. So I think it's very important to let them know that we are standing with them and we are supporting them in everything that they are doing.
If you can't attend, the march will be live streamed on Instagram. Well, new for you at noon. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is holding a news conference right now, announcing that Minnesotans 16 and older will be eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine starting next Tuesday. The final eligibility expansion comes as the federal government has promised an increased supply of vaccine by April. Now, Governor Walz says by expanding eligibility to all Minnesotans, providers across the state will have the flexibility they need to fill appointments and support the state's most critical goal, to get as many Minnesotans vaccinated as quickly as possible. You can watch at valleynewslive.com. The general public in North Dakota will be eligible for the vaccine on Monday. A number of organizations are setting up for that Phase 2 rollout, including Thrifty White Pharmacy, Essentia, and Sanford. CVS is also offering COVID vaccinations, as are public health departments, that is, in many counties. Well, one person was hurt and one person is charged in a crash on I-29 north of Grand Forks this morning. It happened at around 8 in the southbound lanes of I-29 near the exit on Highway 81 north of Grand Forks. The North Dakota Highway Patrol tweeted these photos, saying rain, sleet, and the temperatures right around freezing made for icy roads. Well, let's check in with meteorologist Lisa Green for a look at our weather conditions right now. Hey, Lisa.
Good afternoon. You can see on our sky cam that we've got a raindrop in Fargo as well. It's been a light rain essentially in Fargo and maybe a little sleet mixed in there too, as this line, it's been so slow moving. If you watched us on the valley today, you'll notice that it hasn't gone too far. It was in eastern North Dakota about 8 hours ago, and it's still exiting eastern North Dakota at this point in time, more into Minnesota right now. You can see northwest Minnesota. We've got some blue and green on the map. Now, keep in mind, radar detects precipitation within the clouds, higher up in the atmosphere, and sometimes they can, the precipitation will melt as it's reaching the ground. So a lot of this looks like snow, but we've been getting more reports of rain and sleet, but I can't rule out some snow mixed in there too. And you can see the stretches down now to the edge of Fargo Moorhead, still seeing perhaps some precipitation, and Moorhead and Dilworth back over to Glendon and other parts of Clay County at the moment. It's moving into more parts of Lakes Country. And the critical thing here has been the temperature. This morning we were at freezing or below, and that caused those issues with slick sidewalks and roadways. And it's still near freezing in places like Detroit Lakes and Crookston. So it may still be slick out there in some of these spots that you're going to want to keep in mind if you're going to be hitting the roads or even just stepping out the door. So in Fargo, temperatures will be making their way upward now that the rain is starting to move on. We're talking some 40s here for today and mostly cloudy skies. And we're not done with the rain just yet. We've got more potentially on the way for later tonight. Details in just a couple of minutes.
That rain can definitely help us out right now, because I know before you were talking about us being in a drought, so we could definitely use some of that moisture. Thanks, Lisa. Well, at least 5 people were killed after deadly storms spawned tornadoes that cut a path of destruction for 150 miles as it moved across Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. Major highways and schools were closed for safety, and thousands are still without power. Kerry Sanders gives us a closer look at the damage.
Overnight, more tornadoes touching down across the southeast, leaving behind a twisted path of destruction through multiple states, including Georgia. In Alabama, the outbreak deadly.
This is a violent tornado. Debris falling.
At least 5 people killed after more than 16 unconfirmed tornadoes hopscotched through the state. At least one long track twister stayed on the ground for more than 20 miles. South of Birmingham and hard-hit Pelham, officials urged people who had come out to examine the damage in their neighborhood to get back in basements as quickly as possible. Some waiting it out in a local middle school turned evacuation center. Ginger Sims didn't comprehend what was happening until it was actually happening.
Everything started shaking and rattling. I went run into the bathtub, covered myself up, and then it just passed over. It came as quickly as, it left.
For those in the direct path, the damage devastating. Dreams destroyed. Old trees toppled. 74-year-old James Dunaway was lying in his second-floor bed when the tornado took direct aim.
I ignored the warning. I shouldn't have. I'm lucky to be here.
Across the street, his neighbor Trish Partridge hid downstairs with her husband.
You got in there
in a closet. In a closet.
You got in the closet
and put mixing bowls on her head. Metal mixing bowls, yeah.
Sad for what she lost, but also grateful to be alive.
One of those homeowners, James Dunaway, says he has been hit by 3 tornadoes since 1982, and he will not rebuild again. Well, the East Grand Forks Fire Department says someone who tossed a cigarette out of the window caused hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage to a restaurant and apartment. The fire started on the roof at Sicky's Garage yesterday. There are 7 apartment units above the restaurant, and fire officials say someone threw a cigarette butt out of the window, which landed on the roof of the additional eating area. One person is displaced due to smoke damage in their apartment, and damages are estimated to be around $500,000 to $700,000. 2 people are now in custody for attempted murder in connection with Sunday's shooting in West Fargo that injured a child. Now, Garrett Morin of Moorhead and Deontay Taylor of Fargo were arrested yesterday, and police say they're looking for more suspects. But West Fargo Police Chief Dennis Alderness is not saying how many more suspects. The shooting happened just before 9 Sunday night in the 1500 block of 11th Avenue East in West Fargo. Police are asking anyone with pictures, video, or information to come forward. A grief-stricken mother talked exclusively with Valley News Live after her young son was killed. It happened Sunday night in the 400 block of Sunrise Circle in North Moorhead. Police say several children were left home alone and found a gun. That's when 6-year-old Marcellus was shot and killed.
He was so loving. He had a little attitude sometimes and be a little cocky sometimes, but his love overpowered that.
Smith says she wants the people responsible to be held accountable and says a gun should have never been left in the apartment, especially next to where kids would look for snacks. You can hear our full interview with Smith on valleynewslive.com. Well, airports in North Dakota are getting some help after a tough year due to the pandemic. The FAA and U.S. Department of Transportation awarded 15 grants totaling over $6.4 million. Now, those receiving funds include airport authorities in Fargo, Jamestown, Barnes County, Hillsborough, and Gwinnett. The funds come through the Coronavirus Relief Act signed into law by former President Donald Trump in March of 2020. Well, coming up at noon, veterans in our area are receiving a recognition this weekend for their selfless sacrifices. We let you know about the events planned for them. And we saw a little bit of rain, but could we see more today? Weather up next with meteorologist Lisa Green.